No DQ Galaxy. We are live with a recap of WWE NXT No Mercy taking place in Denver, Colorado. Shout out to everyone watching this, whether it's live or on demand. I hope you're all having a great Labor Day weekend. Let's talk about NXT. Things are heating up with NXT set to debut on the CW October 1st. Now, before we get into NXT, shout out to The Real Wyatt, who did send in a super chat on my last stream following the WWE Premium Live Event Bash in Berlin. Real Wyatt wanted to note that Randy Orton should be the one to break Ric Flair's record. I would not be opposed to that. I still think John Cena has the best shot, but if Randy Orton wrestles another 4 or 5 years and he ends up breaking the record, I would be totally cool with that. I think if anybody has truly earned it, it's Randy Orton. He has been a real workhorse for WWE over 20 years now and counting. Thank you for that, The Real Wyatt. Now, let's get to NXT. 6 matches on the card. Show went about 2 hours and 45 minutes, shorter than the 5-match WWE Premium Live event. Good crowd, at least size-wise. They had about 7,000 in the building, which is pretty good for a developmental league. Credit to WWE. They've been able to build up the NXT brand from its low point in 2021 with NXT 2.0. They got some fans coming to the arenas. That's a positive. Let's talk about the first match, which was Chase U and Andre Chase and Ridge Holland against Nathan Frazer and Axiom. Very good opening match. Now, over the past couple months, Frazer and Axiom have been teasing dissension. They lost the tag team titles, and this was their opportunity to get the tag team titles back. It was a fun, fast-paced match. Ridge Holland was the muscle. He came in there. He was dominating, but then you had the speed of Frazer and Axiom. They were able to build up some momentum. They got the upper hand on Andre for a while, and then things started to break down with all 4 guys in the ring. We had miscommunication where Frazer accidentally knocked Axiom off the top rope. Chase gave Axiom an avalanche Spanish fly, but was not able to finish off Axiom. Then Ridge came back into the mix. Ridge came off the top with a Doomsday device, but could not beat Frazer. And then Chase and Ridge double-teamed Frazer. Axiom came in and made the save. And then Frazer and Axiom were double-teaming Chase. Axiom then super kicked Frazer by mistake, another miscommunication. And then the champions hit a backstabber and powerbomb combo. Axiom still managed to kick out, and then Axiom hit his Spanish fly to Chase, and then Frazer pinned Chase with the Phoenix Splash. Champions have been crowned, new tag team champions. But the big story was after the match, Ridge Holland turned against Chase U. He beat the crap out of all of them. I guess he was frustrated because he was maybe carrying the match for his team, and they ended up losing the titles. Chase got pinned. But yeah, Ridge Holland no longer part of the group. And the crowd, even though they love Chase U, as they tend to do when the heel goes on a rampage, the fans started chanting one more time after Holland put Chase, well, didn't put him through the table, but gave him a DDT on the announce table. You had a stretcher come out there. They put a neck brace around Andre Chase. And Ridge is now a bad guy again. We'll see where that goes. Maybe this will be a little bit of a brief run for him and he'll go back on the main roster at some point. Who knows? But match was really good. Nice way to start off the show. Our second match of the evening was Wes Lee versus Zach Wentz. They were formerly the trio known as the Rascals, and these two guys were known as MSK, but then Wes Lee turned against the Rascals and went off on his own. Wentz recently won the TNA X Division title, so he came out there with the title. Pretty big moment, X Division champion versus Wesley. And this was very much like a classic X Division match. Lots of fast-paced action, total nonstop action, you could say. They were countering each other. Lee dominated the match for a while, and then they exchanged strikes. Wentz was able to catch Lee with a jumping knee to the face. He delivered some high-flying offense. Crowd started chanting TNA, and then Wentz applied a Boston Crab, but Lee was able to escape. And then Lee regained control for a while. He hit the cardiac kick. However, Wentz was able to kick out of that. And then Wentz came back with a blockbuster DDT, followed by a Meteora, but Lee was able to slip to the outside of the ring. Lee charged at Wentz, but missed and crashed into the steel steps. And then we had a Botchamania I am the table moment where Lee placed Wentz on the announce table, and well, the announce table just collapsed. This reminded me of MJF. I think it was MJF. Who did he face? One of MJF's title defenses, and he put the guy on the table and the table broke, and MJF just decided to go up to the top and jump off anyways. And that's basically what Lee did here. He came off the top, and then he decided to try and use a steel chair. He still could not finish off Wentz. And then we had Trey Miguel, the third member of the Rascals, stopping Lee from using the steel chair. And then Wentz hit the Destroyer on the floor, got Lee back in the ring, and picked up the victory with the UFO cutter. So the TNA X Division champion picks up a win over a WWE NXT superstar. For people thinking that TNA wasn't going to get the best of this deal, well, a TNA guy won a match on a WWE premium live event. Good stuff here. Very good match with these guys. Pretty much what you would expect from them. There's really no way that these guys are ever going to have a bad match. They go out there, they do all the crazy moves, and it was a lot of fun. I was 0 for 2, by the way, as far as predictions go for this. Third match of the evening is probably the low point of the show. We had Kelani Jordan defending the Women's North American Championship against Wendy Choo. Wendy Choo used to come out to the ring in her pajamas and she would fall asleep. It was kind of a boring gimmick, in my opinion, very amateur hour. And now she's bad. She's like the psycho sleeper. That's her gimmick now. So she's coming out there looking all creepy. But the match really wasn't too good. And for whatever reason, these two did not have the in-ring chemistry together. There were several moves that did not connect. And at one point, both of them were on the top, and they both just fell out of the corner. And the announcers tried to cover up for them, bringing up how in the mile-high city of Denver, sometimes people can get tired easily and whatnot. Match wasn't much, and the crowd really did not care about this whatsoever. They were dead for this match. It was very quiet. Jordan, I think, does have some potential, but yeah, she's not at that level just yet to be carrying a match, and definitely is going to need some more time in NXT. She did pick up the win. She's got great athletic abilities, but yeah, I think that, you know, she's going to need a few more years in NXT. She did get the win with the split-legged moonsault to retain her championship, and then Tatum Paxley attacked Wendy Choo after the match. I have no idea what their storyline is about, so didn't really care about it. Yeah, definitely the low point of the show. We then had Femi versus Tony D'Angelo for the men's North American Championship. This match was better. I still don't know how far Tony D'Angelo is going. He's been in an NXT for a while now, and he's been pretty good, but nothing to really stand out all that much. He's got the Mafia gimmick, which, I mean, Big Vito did the Mafia gimmick. We've seen the Mafia gimmick many times over the years. He's solid, but I don't necessarily think he's all that much better than he was 3 years ago. Now, Femi, on the other hand, this guy, if he keeps getting better, he is going to be the real deal. He's got the size. He's got the intensity. Femi, to me, was the biggest standout on this entire show. I think he's going to be a potential main eventer. If he keeps doing well and keeps progressing, he's going to be the man. Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat, says, do you think Tony D gets called up soon? That's a great question, because he's been in NXT now for 3 years. But the problem is, I think if he gets called up, he gets lost in the shuffle. Like, I really don't know how far he can go on the main roster. Like, his act, the whole Mafia gimmick, feels lower card. I'm not sure how far he can go. Like, he would probably be at a pretty deadly level where he might get some TV time, but they're never really going to push him all that strongly. Kind of like an Apollo Crews, where maybe they can rely on him as a good wrestler, a good hand, but I don't know if he's going to be pushed at a high level if he gets called up to the main roster. And I think the whole point of NXT is to try and create your next top-level superstar. So I really don't know where Tony D'Angelo really fits in. But Femi, in a few years, that guy, I think, realistically has a shot at being a main event star for sure. Anyways, it was a good match between these two. Femi was dominant, but Tony D'Angelo was definitely bringing the fight to Femi. And you basically had Tony as the babyface here, making the comeback. Femi was just overpowering him, but Tony kept coming back, and Tony gave Femi a power slam. Femi had to slip to the outside of the ring, and he actually went for a crowbar, so he was getting a little bit desperate, but then the family stopped him from using the crowbar, and Femi charged at Tony D, but missed, hit the steel steps, and then Tony got Femi back in the ring, hit a pretty cool looking spear, but Femi was able to kick out of it, and then Femi regained the upper hand, hit a power bomb. Tony kicked out of that. Then Tony got to his feet. Femi delivered another power bomb, and then a sit-down power bomb, and got the 1-2-3 victory. Nice win here for Femi. And his momentum continues. I'm not sure who beats him at this point. I could see him holding on to that title for a while. Next up, we had the NXT Women's Championship. Roxanne Perez versus Jada Parker. And I feel like they're kind of in the wrong roles. I'm still not really into Roxanne as a heel. I mean, she's just so small. Like it's hard to buy into her as a heel, especially when she's up against Jada Parker, who was much bigger than her and physically intimidating. And Roxanne's the heel here. You know, they did the injury bit where Jada Parker, she had her ribs, tape on her ribs, and Roxanne was targeting the ribs, dropped her ribs first on the steel steps. So they used that to build up the heat for Roxanne. And she started mocking Parker, and that got Parker all fired up. She had a sit-down power bomb. And then Parker followed up with a spine buster. Perez kept kicking out, though. And then she started selling her ribs. Perez regained the upper hand, put on the Rings of Saturn submission. Parker, though, was able to power out of it, which she should, considering she's quite a bit larger than Roxanne Perez. And then they went to the outside of the ring. Parker charged at Roxanne, but missed and crashed through the barricade. And Roxanne gave Parker the pop rocks onto the piece of the barricade. Parker was almost counted out. She barely beat the 10 count. We see this all the time. They always make it back in at 9 9/10. We never see somebody just fail to make the count. They always beat the count. But unfortunately for her, Roxanne was ready. Roxanne hit the pop rocks again and picked up the 1-2-3 victory in the ring. The biggest story after this was after the match. We had Julia officially making her debut. She did appear on NXT several months ago, but she was in the crowd, a spectator. This was officially, she's in. She's officially part of NXT now. She came out there, big pop from the crowd, and she confronted Roxanne Perez. Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Building Nexus. Says, do you think Roxanne is on borrowed time in NXT? 100%. I think Roxanne is great. I just think she's a better babyface than a heel. She might be able to pull it off at some point. I mean, there have been great heels, guys that are on the smaller side. Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, whatever you want to call him. He's up there, smaller guy, but he could play the heel role really well. So it is possible. But Roxanne's ready. Roxanne is great. She's definitely, as far as the female roster goes, she is the prodigy. I agree with that moniker, and I think it's only a matter of time before she's on the main roster. I'm actually surprised she's not there already. I think that Julia will probably be the one to defeat her. I mean, Julia is going to be pushed strong. She's already got a big following. So yeah, I think it's a safe bet to say that whenever that match happens, Julia will be the next NXT Women's Championship. I've actually never seen her wrestle, but people are raving about her, and she definitely has a star presence to her. So I think she'll be the one to beat Roxanne, and Roxanne maybe by Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, somewhere around there, I see Roxanne going to the main roster. We had our main event of the evening, which was Ethan Page versus Joe Hendry. Do you believe in Joe Hendry? Well, he had Trick Williams out there as the special guest referee, although Trick was making it very clear he was going to call it right down the middle. And things got heated right off the bat between Page and Williams. Crowd was very much behind Joe Hendry. He's the hot ticket right now. People were chanting, "We believe." And Page was in control early on, but then he had issues with Trick Williams, thought that Trick Williams was not counting fast enough. and Page gave Hendry an avalanche power slam. Hendry was able to kick out of that. Hendry then made a comeback. He went after Page on the outside, but then he got sent into the steel steps, and then Page gave Hendry the ego's edge onto the ring apron. Hendry, once again, barely beat the 10 count, and he did a great job, though, like acting like he might not make it back in. He kept collapsing over and over again. Shawn Michaels probably gave him some pointers on that one. He did beat the count, 9 9/10. You know they're never going to get counted out because, first of all, the crowd would hate it. And that's really the only reason you need. And number two, they in general just don't like to do count out finishes because the crowd doesn't like it. And they're not going to do it on a premium live event unless they're completely out of their mind. So yeah, anytime you see this, you just know the guy's going to get back in the ring before the count of 10. So yes, Joe Hendry got back in the ring, and then we had the shenanigans. We knew the shenanigans were coming. So you had Trick Williams getting knocked down. So what happened first was Hendry hit his choke slam, the standing ovation. Page got his foot by the rope or under the rope, and Trick Williams did stop the count. So Williams, again, calling it down the middle. But then Williams inadvertently got knocked down. A second referee ran down there. And then Page brought in the NXT title and gave Hendry the DDT on the title, which technically isn't a DQ because he didn't actually use the title as a weapon, although he did drop the guy on the title. Williams was not going to allow this. He got back in the ring and stopped the second referee's count. Page then went to strike Williams, but then hit the second referee. Williams was checking in on the second referee, and while this was happening, Page gave Hendry a low blow, and then Williams turned around, didn't see it. Hendry got pinned. Williams made the count, did not see the low blow. Ethan Page, still your NXT World Champion. And then after the match, Pete Dunne showed up and attacked Williams, and that was the big cliffhanger for the end of the show. And I did not think that we were going to see Joe Hendry win. Main event was good, not a stellar match, but you did have all the shenanigans. It was pretty entertaining, especially at the end. Pete Dunne coming out there, not much of a cliffhanger in my opinion. We got some super chats here. Shout out to D. Martin Fifth, said Julia is a renowned superstar from Japan. And I have seen pictures and clips of her, but I've never actually seen a full match from her. She's definitely built up a fan base over the past few years, and I think she'll do well. She definitely has the look. She has the star presence, and I can gather that much from her already. And I expect her to be pushed as the top star in NXT for the next couple of years here. Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Building Nexus. Says, do you think Joe Hendry is in WWE by 2026? I think he's in WWE by Royal Rumble. Whenever his TNA deal is up, I think he's officially gone. And let's be real here. If WWE wants him bad enough, they could probably get him out of the TNA deal, but they got this working relationship, and we only got, 4 months now left in the year. I'm calling it. I think Joe Hendry is full-time WWE by the Royal Rumble. And Dylan Lasagna sent in a $2 super chat. Says, Aaron, do you believe in Joe Hendry now? I think he's a good wrestler. He's got some charisma, but I'm still not there yet. I still get Zack Ryder vibes from him. Like, he's the cool thing right now, but will he be the cool thing in 6 months? I'm still not sold on him. And I did see a couple of clips of him in TNA like a year or two ago, and I was like, yeah, he's fine. But nothing about him really stood out to me. So we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he can be a big success in WWE. He's definitely got the cult following right now, but will he be able to sustain it? As Kurapika07 brought up, he's a meme right now. So I just need to see more. I need to see him be able to keep the momentum going for another 6 months. I did see a clip of him doing the song, and it was okay. It gave me Elias vibes. It was all right, but again, didn't really stand out to me as anything that is next level. But he's good. He's a good performer, and I think he does have potential, and maybe in time he'll become a bigger star and he'll be a major player in WWE. We'll see. But I do think they're going to give him the shot. I don't think they're going to try to cut his legs out from under him. With Zack Ryder, the poor guy never really had a realistic shot in WWE because he got over on his own, and WWE just did everything to make him a joke and say, we knew he wasn't a star, and that whole sort of thing. I think with Joe Hendry, they're going to give him every chance to succeed. So I think there's a big difference in that regard, that Joe Hendry will definitely get the chance to succeed on a high level. And whether he does or not will ultimately be up to him. All in all, I thought NXT was a solid show. I don't think it was must-see. I don't think it was as strong as the last show that they did, but it was good. I give it a B-. It's hard to really follow All In and even Bash in Berlin. And 6 years ago, NXT could steal the show. SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, they'd have a tough time following NXT. But now with AEW, coming off an AEW show and Bash in Berlin, I had a little bit of fatigue, and I don't feel like this show really blew me away in any regard. I don't think there was any match that was a match of the year contender. You had a couple of angles on the show. You had the Ridge Holland turn. Okay. Not a big deal. Julia showing up. I mean, that was probably the most interesting surprise moment on the show. But beyond that, it was a good show. I'd give it a B-. I don't think it was great. And I don't think you would necessarily need to go out of your way to watch it. But hey, it had some good wrestling on it, and you got a few people on this roster that have some real potential. Shout out to Walter Cruz, Rage of Wrestling, who sent in a $10 super chat. He says, hey, solid week of wrestling. Can't wait until the review episode 300. Please check out our watch along of NXT No Mercy, now on demand on the Rage of Wrestling YouTube channel. Yes, cheap plug for Walter. Check out his channel, Rage of Wrestling. Check out his content. Make sure you follow him. If you enjoy what he does on No DQ's review and the predictions videos, you'll enjoy his other content. So check him out. Thank you, Walter. And yeah, make sure you guys tune in Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We're probably going 3+ hours. We're going to be going up against NXT, but it is what it is. Tuesday night, No DQ review 300. And of course, I will be back after Raw with my thoughts on the show. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest news and rumors. And of course, detailed results from NXT No Mercy. And I'll see you guys this week for more content on the No DQ channel. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all next time.